All right, you guys, I have a guest that I'm extremely honored to have on my show today, and this is Tami Lynn Kent. She is a fellow physical therapist and a specialist in bodywork and energy medicine. And I have known of Tami. We've actually never met in person, but I've known about Tami for, 12 years or so, when I first read her book. And she was a fellow fellow practitioner in the Portland metro area, which is where I used to live. We were in the same area, and I had her books, and I was completely obsessed with her work. And unfortunately, I moved halfway around the world, so I was never able to attend any of Tammy's amazing workshops, courses, or anything like that. But I'm so happy, Tammy, that you're here today to talk about the energy that's in our bodies. So this is Wild Creative that I have. I also have Wild Feminine. And Tammy, you have one other book called Mothering from Your Center. They're all amazing. So I'd love for you to briefly, before we talk about energy medicine today and the energy we hold within, to maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, about what you do these days and everything and anything.
Okay. Well, I am passionate about women's health and healthcare and women's bodies. And I came into that kind of accidentally because, similar to you, I found my way to women's health physical therapy, which most women don't know about. I assume you as listeners have more awareness since you're tuning in here. I think it's something that should be part of our proactive health, this holistic aspect of understanding working with our pelvic bowls for the long haul and understanding how to take care of them, but also the medicine that they contain. So I came into that kind of accidentally. I started working more mechanically as a physical therapist, helping to heal or balance the muscles. And then when I put my hands on this space, it was just, this is where babies come from. It's an incredibly creative, powerful space. And I would feel it and sit with it with women, but I felt like we weren't really fully accessing it in the way that we maybe could in this modern time. And so I started kind of, for me, what was like a knitting project was my writing. Some people knit or cook or garden. I started writing and kind of piecing together what I was learning as I was working with women. And I've done this work now for 20 years. And it's really changed my life too. I've just come to understand the body as full of medicine, the pelvic bowl is full of medicine. And so I wrote a lot about that. And part of my experience was the writing where I was trying to understand what is this and then put it into a tangible form. So out of that came 3 projects. Wild Feminine is really about understanding your own body medicine from the pelvic bowl, the ovaries and the uterus and the energetics of those. So not just those as organs sitting there, but how to actually work with them through visualization and meditation. So that book is kind of for if anyone would want to tap into that. Then I wrote Mothering from Your Center because I became a mother 20 years ago and I have 3 sons, and I went through birth and pregnancy and postpartum and healing a lot of things, and also having a miscarriage and feeling like there wasn't enough healing on our pelvises postpartum. So I became really passionate about that as well. And so I wrote a book for mothers and to heal. And also I have a lot of passion around birth trauma or when birth doesn't go as planned. And so there's a whole chapter on that for just healing that in your body. And I think every woman should feel the powerful energy of the birth, no matter how she's birthed. So that medicine is in that book. And then I wrote Wild Creative, which is really about bringing your creative energy to your life. So we are creative channels as women, and hopefully you feel creative, but if you don't, that's a place to go back and explore your relationship with creativity because women are inherently creative. We are the creators. And so that book is kind of coming back to your own creative flow and then weaving it into your life, weaving it into your work, weaving it into everything. And that's really how I live. So my work with women, my mothering, my, just where I'm sitting right now is a tiny house that we built as part of our creative vision on our land. I'm really passionate about design and just using my creativity in this tiny house I built in case at some point family might need it. And, my college son is living here right now. So it's just interesting how things, when you follow your creative flow, it's both satisfying, but it also tends to be very practical as well. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, wow. That was so great. Yeah. 3 kids. I love that. And so you definitely know what you're talking about when it comes to the birth process. And I know that actually that's part of a recent energy medicine training that you recently released on YouTube. And I can put a link to that as well. That's specifically about the energy of a birth and sort of the energy that we all experience when giving birth and also when we were birthed.
Birth energetics is one of my passions just because sitting with the pelvic bowl, of course, I worked with a lot of mothers and I worked with a lot of women postpartum. And I sat with women who especially felt frustrated because of maybe the birth didn't go as planned. So that became a huge part of passion for me of trying to heal that for women. And so stepping into more of the energy of birth. And it's probably too much to share here, but it's written in the mothering book and then also written for adults in Wild Creative. And so the video you're referencing is just one of my most powerful tools for really reclaiming your own birth energy. And so it walks you through the energetics of that. And that was honed, I put it out as a simple video as an offering in this time, but that was honed over about 15 years of work of just really looking at what was happening, including my own birth experience, really understanding what is a birth field, how does that open, what is this flow of energy that comes in. And so there's medicine in the field, there's medicine in birth that we can access to even heal later, because there's no time frame really in energy. In physical, we have our babies, they're born, they're a certain age. That's the physicality of this. There's an energetic component that's more of a thread. And it's kind of like light. Light is both a particle and a wave. Light is a distinct particle. There's pieces. This was a massive discussion with Einstein. And we are, our children are born. That's the particle aspect of birth. But there's also a wave component to light, which we also have. And so there's this continuum. So you can actually use this medicine throughout time. You can go back in Mothering from Your Center. There's a story of a friend of mine who we did a birth repair on her 29-year-old daughter's birth, because that daughter was getting ready to get pregnant. It was bringing up all this trauma for this mother. So we did a repair on that through the birth energetics. And then her daughter conceived child that night.
Oh,
and then 9 months I know. And then 9 months later gave birth, and they used the repair that was made because the grandmother was at the birth. It's a beautiful story, and they actually helped me write it. So I wanted it to be in their words. So it's a grandmother, a mother, and then her child being born. And, it was almost 30 years since the birth, but it's a very powerful story, and stories really kind of get past our conscious mind to get into this deeper space of understanding. Like when we're read to, how you feel kind of dreamy. So I asked them to write the story with me. It's called Healing Birth Across 3 Generations, and it's in the mothering book if anybody wants to access it. This is one of the most powerful stories I have to share, thanks to their generosity.
yeah, that's incredible. I find energy to be extremely fascinating. This whole subject, it's hard for people to grasp. It was hard for me to grasp. I guess I'll just say that. I've been studying energy for a long time, but I still don't really have a great handle on it. It just seems so intangible, and I'm such a science-minded person that it can be hard to even explain what it is that we're talking about. But maybe we should do that. I mean, you're the expert. How would you explain a little bit more maybe to people who are a little confused right now, and maybe how could they even tap into this in their own bodies if they're interested?
Right. I know. I think it is this kind of abstract concept. And for me, it certainly was too. When I started working on the pelvic bowl, I was working on muscles and bones and fascia and in concrete things. But, energy is really, it's like the breath, the life force energy. So even if you work with your breath, you're sensing into energy. And if you move your breath, like if you have a tight shoulder, for example, and you sense it and you go, okay, that's tight. If you send your breath into that space, energy often moves with breath. And part of breath is our life force energy. So if you breathe into that left shoulder, you will actually feel it start to soften. And that's the impact of energy. It's like, qi. In Chinese medicine or in yoga, it's called prana. In Chinese medicine, it's called qi. It is the life force. So I think in Western world, the simplest way to think of it is with breath. And you can change the temperature of your skin. If your hands are cold and you breathe towards your hands a little bit, they will warm. And, on some level, there's a physiological response happening. So maybe it's cellular, maybe it's blood flow. But that the chi and our breath actually influences the physiology and the physical. So, and I think we're understanding it more and more because people are taking things like yoga and feeling into their bodies. It's just a more subtle sensation. So where the physical, like the muscle, is very palpable, the breath is a little bit more of a subtle sensation. So I like to work with energy medicine using breath, and usually using inner sensation and using visualization. So if you send your breath to your left arm, for example, if you visualize your left arm, if you sense into the more subtle sensations in your left arm, you're working with energy. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. I find a good place to feel it for myself is actually in my hands. I don't know if you've experienced that, but for me, I think just because we use our hands so much that they're already so sensitive, somehow if I sense in to my hands internally, I can feel it really well there. So that might help some people. And how would you direct people to think about the energy of their pelvic bowl, which is really your specialty?
Right. First, just to say one more thing on what you said about the hands.
Yeah.
One thing you can practice is sensing with your hands. We do have a lot of sensation in our hands, but because we get so mental in Western culture, we tend not to really feel as deeply as we could. So you can place your hand on your part of your body and try to just receive, or you can put it on your child and try to just feel, like, let the information come into your hand, or even on the earth or a plant, and try to be more receptive with your hand. Part of energy sensing is we try to do something and we miss it. You actually have to be quiet and kind of receive. So that's one subtle key to work on. With the pelvic bowl, I think part of it is coming down out of your head, because again, if you're in Western culture, we tend to get pretty mental, with schooling and whatnot. And so to also plug into external authorities. So most people go to school and then they go to work. And so we're over here kind of doing our work or doing our academics or whatever. And it's external. It's an external awareness. So this is about, first of all, coming to an internal place and coming back to your own center. So it is a little bit of like what you might have heard with meditation, where you just bring your awareness and your focus back to your own core. And then with the pelvic bowl, you just drop it down. So instead of being in your head, you come down into your pelvis. And so it's a lower sensation. Sometimes it helps to sit on the ground and feel the sensation of where the ground is meeting your pelvis. And to tap into the energy there, the first step is just becoming aware of that place. You'd be surprised. I know I was surprised when I really started working with the pelvic bowl and then looking at it for myself, how disconnected we just tend to be. Part of that is our modern lives. We move with external structures, but also with a busyness that doesn't tend to slow us down to feel that rootedness. So I think when we were living a little bit more in a tribal culture where we were maybe cooking and standing on the earth and moving slower, we weren't traveling as far, I think we had more of a sense of our root naturally. But all the busyness, it really takes us outside of ourselves. So the first step is just quieting and coming back, and then dropping down your awareness to your core, and knowing that as a woman, it's actually important that you have some focus there, that you have some connection there, because this is where a lot of your medicine and a lot of your abilities to receive information or guidance or even intuition comes from.
And how has it helped some of your clients, specifically when they are able to tune into the pelvic bowl and that energy of that area?
Well, I think, first of all, sometimes it's okay to know that it isn't always comfortable if you haven't been there. I think sometimes there's a lot of feelings or even congestion. So it's been a mixture of things. For some women, it feels like, yes, I want to be down here. This feels so good. This is my creative, juicy place. For other women, it feels kind of like lonely, or even like they have uncomfortable feelings. So whatever you feel, it's kind of, think of it like a beautiful room that you really just haven't spent much time in. And when you go into that room, there's a lot of old boxes and things that don't even make sense. You maybe have accumulated stuff because you haven't been there. Or you can also think of it like a garden that you just haven't spent time in. So if you go into these spaces and you start cultivating and clearing it out. So if you have, if you feel really good there, great, just start spending time in that space. If you don't, all you have to do is do a little bit of clearing. And I have a lot of exercises, like Wild Feminine is full of these, and I just did an audiobook of Wild Feminine, so you can actually download it and listen to it. And it's about going in there and kind of sweeping it out. And the way I think of it, sometimes they say, imagine there's old boxes that you are clearing out, like visualize. When we, athletes use visualization as a powerful tool. Any athlete that's ever broken an event, a world record or anything, has really visualized it first. The power of visualization is huge in the body-mind connection. So if you go down to your pelvic bowl and envision yourself kind of walking around and clearing out the files, moving the old boxes, moving old rocks, whatever they look like, washing that space, energizing that space, maybe imagine opening windows and letting light in, you actually start to clear out what was held there. and it becomes more of an open space, which is really, the pelvic bowl is not supposed to be a storehouse of old stuff and old feelings. It's supposed to be a dynamic place with kind of a river running through it of energy that you can draw from when you need, and it helps you clear things when you don't. Our bodies have a powerful ability, just even in our menstrual cycles and our birthing patterns, to hold and gestate things and then clear when we don't need them. And just that rhythm, if you can start to clear space and then start to reconnect with that rhythm of holding something that's precious and then clearing out when you're ready to release, it starts to become just like a comfortable space to be in, a beautiful space to be in, and that's really worth doing.
Absolutely. And this just reminds me of all of the people that come to my YouTube channel and my work and come to me with pelvic tension and a lot of emotion and emotion that's held in the pelvis, but a lot of tension, excessive tension that's causing them issues with their pelvic health in general, a lot of bladder urgency or even leakage. Sometimes even it's in conjunction with prolapse, or they are having painful sex. They're having issues like that. So there's so many issues that pelvic tension can cause. And I think that this clearing exercise would just be absolutely amazing for people who are dealing with tension to do.
Yeah, I think part of it too, when you're having negative symptoms or symptoms that don't feel good, you tend to even disconnect more and feel frustrated, almost like if you're in a fight with your body. And so it's about coming down lovingly and really starting to take up resonance there. And underneath the physical is often energetic and emotional. So think of it not as judgment or blame, but just as awareness that you have to be even more compassionate, more loving to kind of clear those patterns, but you can clear them. And tension often arises in places where we're not very present anywhere in the body. You can do an exercise of going around your whole body, finding places where you're not as aware and bringing breath, or you know that there's tension, bringing breath there, and you'll feel it change. And so the pelvic bowl is similar. And I would say that I am finding it's chronic among women, that there's congestion in the pelvic bowl, and that congestion then creates problems like pain and prolapse and other things, because then we don't have a dynamic space. We have a tense space that's congested. And so if you have that, know that you're not alone, but the antidote to that is starting to create more flow. So in my book, Wild Feminine, I talk about how to do self-massage. I think we all should be doing self-massage, and sometimes you have to work through discomfort with that, but it's non-sexual. It's literally just working, nourishing. You can massage your shoulders, you can massage your pelvic muscles. So I talk about that. That can help clear congestion. In Wild Feminine, because I saw so many emotions with women, I write about each of the emotions, and like fear, anger, sadness, grief, and joy, of course, too. But it's the other ones that we need more help with, and understanding there's usually a purpose under each of those, that you can be guided to a healing movement. So I wrote about that in Wild Feminine. So you're not alone if you experience that, but you want to come closer. You want to lean in with your pelvic bowl and work through these things and reclaim it, clear the tension, restore the energy, start to create it as a dynamic space. No matter what a woman's been through, and sometimes these are the results of traumas too, so I want to acknowledge that. But I did a TED talk called The Vagina Whisperer that people can look at, and it is the whole premise is we can change trauma imprints in our bodies. We don't have to live with them. And we want to bring medicine to all these things. So we get past the discomfort or the pain or the trauma. We get to the healing in the place where our pelvic bowl is a vibrant place for us. It does have medicine there. And no matter what you've experienced as a woman, I have only ever seen medicine in the bowl. And I've worked with over 10,000 women. So I've heard tons of stories of pain, but underneath that, this medicine is just waiting for you. It can't be destroyed. It's very powerful, but sometimes it fractures your connection. And sometimes you feel, like you don't know how to reconnect. So that might be the issue. But I just want to encourage women to push past that and to reconnect with this beautiful space that's just waiting for you. And, that's why I wrote all the books, was to give women tools and guideposts so they could find their way there.
Oh, it's beautifully said, and so empowering to think that we have this medicine in our body and we can look within and really, so to kind of put it all together, what you're really saying is to find the medicine and to use the medicine, we need to actually bring our attention to the area. So whether it's that tender shoulder and we're bringing our attention and our breath and our awareness to that area, that's moving the medicine to that area, or whether it's clearing out the pelvic bowl and the congestion that's in there, it's bringing our awareness to that area and seeing it and loving it and then moving things out if we need to. Is that too simplified, or is
No,
that,
I mean, that is basically it. And you can get fancy with it. And that's why I wrote, several
yeah,
books, different ways to do it. But the simplest thing is just dropping down in. And if you
yeah,
have a place in nature, either you can go in your mind, or if you have a yard or place you can sit, it helps to kind of get into that earth place because our bodies are so aligned with that. So if you can sit on the earth, or imagine you're sitting on the earth, and then use your visualization and your sensation skills and bring the breath down to the pelvic bowl, and even just plant a little seed of gratitude. Like, I love you, body, or may I be in my strength here, or may I know this space, may I know the medicine of this space. Bring a little blessing to that pelvic bowl. That is very healing too, because it starts to repair any disconnect. So you start to be more owning that and healing that space again. So, the breath, the visualization, using earth to help you connect, and then blessing the space. And then if you want to get fancier or get more, there's more tools for you. But it really can be that simple. It's just a matter of doing it.
I love that. I love that. Maybe I'll wrap us up by sharing something from my own life today. Like right now, today, this particular day has been really rough for me. I have had so many things. It's just one of those days where all these little things have gone wrong from one thing to another. I won't even list them, but it's like the law of attraction. Things just, this snowball keeps going. And
Yep.
I feel that it gets me really up in my head, and it also makes me tense. I feel the tension. And so I think this is a time when I'm very disconnected from my pelvic bowl, where it's like all the junk is being stored in the tension of my pelvis, and my head is all up here. So it's almost like what I need to do is tonight go to my practice, which I do have a personal practice of every night before I go to sleep. I actually just put my hands down low, like right over my uterus area, just right over my womb, and I just hold them there. And I think that that's going to be very, very helpful for calming and soothing this rough day that I've had, because what you're saying, it's just bringing this junk
Yeah.
down, and it's taking the tension and the yuckiness out of the pelvic bowl and bringing some love into it, because that's really what it's there for, to give us.
Yeah. And what I'd add to that, so like when I have that kind of day, what I do is I tune down to my bowl, and then I create a visualization of grounding cord. So it's like a beam of light from the pelvis. At the base of the pelvis, there's a perineum, and we have an earth chi point there. I connect that perineum or pelvic space down into the earth with visualization, and imagine I'm a plant with that connecting. And I take all that hard stuff and run it out of my body down into the earth. And so you can imagine walking around your field and kind of sweeping it out, and almost like a drain in a bathtub, you just let it go down. So you clear. Then you want to fill what you cleared with something. So you can do something like set an intention. You can imagine setting it in your womb. You can imagine it's a little garden, you're planting it, but maybe it would be more peace and ease. It can be that simple. And you plant that intention, and then you walk around one more time, and this time you bless your space. So instead of clearing, you just say, my favorite mantra is, I am sacred, I am blessed. You walk around and say, I am sacred, I am blessed, while you visualize yourself, you're walking around your pelvic bowl or your field. And when you do that, you imagine light coming in. It's kind of like when we open up the window, we let in sunlight. You imagine it coming in all the way around. And what that does is it kind of seals up where you had that sort of chaos and that challenge, and it brings an alignment or a resonance. On my YouTube channel, I talk about resonance reaction. So if you link that, people understand that. But you bring that light in with a blessing. I am sacred, I am blessed. And it just gives you a little bit of a buffer so that you can have this quiet, peaceful space no matter what is happening. And it doesn't mean, we get thrown, you're, mother, you have business, world. But if we can align our field and just dropping down into the root, making that grounding cord, releasing, setting an intention, and then blessing the space, that is, in my book, it's called Pelvic Bowl Sings. That is a really powerful meditation to reset what is happening in your field. And when you do that, then your peaceful core does tend to influence the energy that comes to you. But if you have a funky day, which we do because we're in life and we're in relationships, you reset your field with that, and then you feel different, and then you move differently, and it brings more support and less struggle.
I cannot wait to do this. This is happening very soon. It's evening for me where I am, so it's happening literally in about 30 minutes. I'm thrilled. I can't wait. So thank you for that, Tammy. Well, this has been amazing, and I would love for you to share with my audience where they could connect with you, because I'm sure people will want to know more.
Yes, I have a website. It's wildfeminine.com. And on that website, I have several offerings. And also I do offer long distance sessions, energy sessions. So that's a possibility. Certainly all the books are there as a tool. And, mostly I just wish for you to have your own medicine and really have the blessings of this beautiful body that you're in, because you have every one of us has this. So I just invite that you receive the access to this beauty in your own bowl.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And all of the information, I will put it in the show notes, including I'll fish out the links to several of the videos and information and resources we talked about today. So thank you, Tammy. Again, I appreciate you so much.
So welcome. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye.